The November air bit my knuckles as I stood outside the diner, clutching a styrofoam cup of coffee that had gone cold. Across the street, Ashley's mansion glowed under the Chicago streetlights, all sleek glass and manicured hedges, a world apart from the modest apartment I'd rented for her a decade ago. I'd traveled 5,000 kilometers to see my daughter after 10 years, only to have her slam the door in my face, her words sharp as the wind. "You don't belong here, Dad." That moment replayed in my head, not just for the sting of rejection, but for the lie behind her polished life. She thought she'd built it all herself. She was wrong. Before we dive deeper, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. What time is it where you are right now? Let's see how far this story travels. The diner's neon sign buzzed faintly, casting a red glow across my booth. I stared at the coffee rings on the Formica table, my mind drifting back to the years I'd poured everything into Ashley. Her piano lessons at age 8, when she'd beam after mastering a simple melody, her tiny fingers stumbling over the keys while I clapped from a couch. I'd worked overtime at the factory to pay for that second-hand upright piano, its chipped mahogany a badge of my sacrifice. College came next. 4 years at Northwestern, every tuition check signed with my name, every late-night call about her dreams answered with my encouragement. Her first apartment in Chicago, a cozy walk-up in Lincoln Park, had my signature on the lease as guarantor, my savings covering the deposit when her barista job couldn't. I'd been her invisible scaffolding, propping up every milestone she now claimed as her own. Small memories flickered, ones Ashley never saw. The piano teacher, Mrs. Callahan, pulling me aside after recital to say, "You're a good father, Bill." Not many would stretch themselves this thin for their kid. Or the landlord of that Lincoln Park walk-up, shaking my hand when I dropped off a deposit. "Your daughter's lucky to have you." Even her college advisor once mailed me a thank you note for covering an emergency tuition payment when Ashley's scholarship fell short. These weren't boasts I shared with her. They were just what a father did. But now, standing in the shadow of a rejection, those echoes of gratitude from others felt like quiet witnesses to a truth she'd buried. Back at my motel, I pulled out my old laptop, its keys worn from years of budgeting and planning for Ashley's future. If she thought she could erase me from her story, I'd start digging into hers. Her husband, Derek, ran a tech startup she bragged about on social media, posts filled with champagne flutes and rooftop parties. Her friends, a glossy circle of influencers and executives, tagged her in photos from galas and yacht trips. And that company, Pinnacle Solutions, was a crown jewel of her perfect life, its logo plastered on her LinkedIn with captions about building an empire. But something didn't add up. The mansion, the cars, the lifestyle, it was too big for a startup barely 3 years old. I opened a browser, my fingers steady despite the ache in my chest. A quick search on public records, LinkedIn profiles, and local business registries was my first step. I wasn't spying. I was reclaiming the truth. Suspense hung in the air like the fog rolling off Lake Michigan. Everything she flaunted, her house, her company, her life, might not be hers at all. The next morning, I walked the streets near Ashley's mansion, blending into the crowd of joggers and dog walkers. My plan wasn't loud or vengeful, no confrontations, no shouting matches. Revenge doesn't need a megaphone when truth is the weapon. I started small, leaving subtle breadcrumbs where Ashley's world might notice. At a coffee shop her friends frequented, I struck up a casual chat with a barista, mentioning I was Bill, Ashley's dad, who helped her get started in Chicago years ago. The barista nodded, curious, and I left it at that, a seed planted. At a local business networking event, I found through a quick Google search. I introduced myself to a few of Derek's colleagues as the guy who funded Pinnacle's first office space. It wasn't a lie. I'd wired Ashley $50,000 for business expenses 2 years ago. No questions asked. Now, I wanted those dots connected. The cracks started showing faster than I expected. At a charity gala Ashley posted about on Instagram, I slipped in as a +1 for a retired colleague who owed me a favor. Over wine and small talk, I dropped hints to a table of her business associates. Pinnacle's doing well, but it's humbling to think I helped buy their first computers. Eyebrows raised, glances exchanged. One woman, a CFO type with sharp eyes, asked, "Wait, you're Ashley's father?" She never mentioned. I just smiled and changed the subject. Let them wonder. Ashley's unease was subtle at first. I'd see it in her social media posts, less frequent, less confident. A photo of her and Derek at a rooftop bar had a strained smile, her caption vague, "Grateful for the journey." I kept digging, cross-referencing property records and business filings. The mansion? Title of my name. A gift I'd put in a trust for Ashley after her wedding, which she'd conveniently forgotten when she kicked me out. Pinnacle Solutions? My $50,000 seed money was listed in early investor documents, buried in fine print. Even Derek's prize Tesla had a lien tied to a loan I co-signed. Her perfect world was built on my sacrifices, and now her circle was starting to whisper. One evening, I got a call from an old friend of Ashley's, a realtor named Claire, who'd helped with that first apartment. She sounded confused. "Bill, I saw Ashley at a networking event, and someone mentioned you own her house. Is that true?" I kept my tone neutral. Check the county records, Claire. My name's on a lot of things she doesn't talk about. The next day, Claire texted me a screenshot of property deed, her message blunt. She's been lying to everyone. The spark was catching fire. Suspense built like a storm cloud over Lakeshore Drive. Ashley was about to learn her perfect world rested on someone she'd scorned. It took 3 weeks for the truth to detonate. I was back at the diner, nursing a fresh coffee, when my phone buzzed with a voicemail from Ashley. Her voice trembled, not with the arrogance of our last meeting, but with something raw, guilt, maybe fear. "Dad, we need to talk. I didn't know. I didn't call back." Let her sit with it. The unraveling happened at a Pinnacle Solutions board meeting, or so Claire told me later. One of Derek's investors, tipped off by the Gallo whispers, had dug into the company's financials. They found my name on the seed funding documents and questioned why Ashley had presented Pinnacle as self-made. Another colleague pulled up the mansion's deed, publicly available, showing my ownership. The room turned on her, quietly, professionally, but mercilessly. Derek, cornered, admitted the Tesla loan had my backing. Every lavish party they'd thrown, every business milestone they'd celebrated, had my fingerprints. Ashley's empire was a house of cards, and I just pulled the bottom one. She showed up at my motel that night, her mascara smudged, her designer coat wrinkled. "Dad, why didn't you tell me?" she asked, standing in the parking lot under a flickering street lamp. Her voice cracked, but I stayed silent, letting her words spill. "The house, the company, everything, you did all that for me, and she couldn't finish." Guilt did the talking. Guilt for kicking me out, for parading her success as her own, for forgetting the father who'd built her foundation. I didn't raise my voice or gloat. I just looked at her, my daughter, now a stranger humbled by truth. "Why didn't you say anything?" she pressed, tears streaming now. "Because you needed to learn," I said simply. "You threw me out like I was nothing. But everything you have, it started with me." She flinched, the weight of her actions sinking in. I didn't need to humiliate her publicly. Her own conscience was punishment enough, mirrored in the shocked faces of her friends and colleagues who now knew the truth. I turned and walked back to my room, leaving her in the cold. My revenge wasn't loud or cruel. It was a quiet exposure reality, letting her live with the knowledge that her arrogance had cost her respect, trust, and maybe even her marriage. Back inside, I sat on the edge of my bed, the cheap mattress creaking under my weight. For the first time in weeks, I smiled, not out of spite, but because justice had restored what was mine, my dignity, my truth. Ashley finally understood, but will she ever admit it? If you're as shocked as I was, smash that like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. What would you do if your family turned on you like this? Click the box on the left for the next story, and thanks for watching.